Welcome to the Department of Revenue Administration Municipal Tax Rate Setting Software Instructional Video Series. Video 7A, Appropriations Conversion for Towns. The appropriations process consists of 4 steps. The first, converting the warrant articles to appropriations as voted. Second, submitting your appropriations as voted to DRA. Third, uploading supplemental documentation required for your appropriations review. And fourth, printing your DRA-approved appropriations as voted, also known as your R form. We will begin with a high-level view of warrant article conversion. To this point, you have submitted your proposed budget with all of your warrant articles aggregated through the system. Following annual meeting, you'll have the ability to bring all of those warrant articles forward, and you'll be asked 3 questions. Did the warrant article pass or fail? Was the warrant article amended? And were those amendments financial? Those 3 questions will be used to drive the system to automatically generate your MS-232 form upon request. It can then be exported into various formats, including Word, PDF, and Excel. Upon logging in, we can see that we have submitted our proposed budget in the Forms and Documents table. Moving to the budget homepage, we can see a green ribbon running across the top of the screen that says Appropriations. Also notice that each of the View Warrant Article buttons has now turned green. This signifies that you're in the appropriations phase of the process. The warrant page now has new information to account for the appropriations phase. We have an Amounts to be Raised box at the top of the screen. We also have an Annual Meeting section, which contains the 3 questions we discussed earlier. There's an optional vote count, where you can add the yea and nay votes. There's also an Amendments/Note box, where you can indicate any other information that pertains to this article. At the bottom of the screen, we have the Account Code table, now with a new column on the right, the Appropriations as Voted column. We will begin validating this warrant article by answering the first question: did the warrant article pass or fail? For this, we will indicate the warrant article failed. At this point, we will be asked no other questions. Note that the amount to be raised has been changed to 0 at the top of the screen, and scrolling down to the bottom of the screen, we see that all of our appropriations as voted are listed as 0. Note those columns are no longer editable. At that point, we can hit Save and Home, return to our budget homepage, and see that we have the meeting status as fail in the warrant article table. Moving to our next warrant article, we will once again begin by answering the first of the 3 questions. Did the warrant article pass or fail? We will indicate the article passed. At this point, we'll have to answer the second question. Was the warrant article amended? In this case, we will answer no. Note that if we scroll to the bottom of the screen, all of our proposed budget amounts will be moved into the Appropriations as Voted column. We can see that for this case, we had all of our appropriations listed under Water Distribution and Treatment, and those have now been moved over to the Appropriations as Voted column. Note, at this point, they are no longer editable. We can save this article and return to our budget homepage by selecting the Save and Home button. Note that we now have a value of pass in the meeting status column in the warrant article table. We can select our next warrant article. Once again, we'll have to answer the 3 questions. We'll begin by saying, yes, this warrant article passed, and yes, it was amended. That will leave us with our third question: was the amendment financial? What this question is asking is, was there an amendment made to this article that impacted the overall raise amount? In this case, we will say that we did not have an overall impact to the raise amount for this warrant article, and we'll do that by selecting no for the financial amendment. All proposed appropriations will be moved over to Appropriations as Voted. When we go to save this article, we receive an error. The error says that we must explain the amendment by adding notes. In this case, we indicated the warrant article was amended, and the system requires that we add some notes about that amendment. We can now save the article and see that it has a status of pass in the meeting status column. We will select our next warrant article. Once again, we'll be prompted with the 3 questions. We will say yes, the warrant article passed, yes, it was amended, and yes, the amendment was financial. At that point, we can begin by adding the notes regarding our amendment. We will move to the top of the page and change our overall amount to be raised, in this case lowering it by $1,000. Then we will scroll to the account code table at the bottom of the screen. We will have to make updates to the table to reflect the $1,000 reduction. Note that all the values in the Appropriations as Voted column are editable when you do an article that is financially amended. In this case, we will go to our Operating Transfers Out tab and reduce our Appropriations as Voted by $1,000. Selecting the Save and Recalculate button will show us that we now have a match in our amounts to be raised at the top of the screen. Saving and returning home will allow us to see that we have a value of pass in the meeting status column on the warrant article table. Selecting our final warrant article, which is non-monetary, will indicate that it passed and that it was not amended. Note there is no account code table on this page because this article is non-monetary. Returning to the budget home, we can see that we now have a meeting status for all warrant articles. Some users may wish to utilize the optional vote count logger in the system. To do so, select any warrant article, go to the annual meeting section of the page, and add your yay and nay votes. Once again, note that this is an optional process. Once we have completed the appropriations review of each of our warrant articles, we can generate a draft appropriations form. To do so, we'll select the View/Submit Appropriations button on the budget home. This will bring us to a draft view of our Appropriations as Voted form. We can scroll through each of the different sections of the form by selecting the appropriate tab. We will see our warrant article number and the amount that's voted. We also see at the bottom of the screen there's a summary. Note that there's a Raise Amounts Match button at the top of the screen. If any of your articles were financially amended and not properly tied out, that indicator would be red, and we would not be able to submit our appropriations. Selecting Save and Budget Home, we return to our Budget Home page, and there we can select the View Appropriations Report button. This will show us a draft of our appropriations report. Note that there is a watermark because we have not submitted this to DRA as final. We can scroll through the various pages and export this report to other usable formats like PDF, Word, and Excel. Once we are ready to submit our appropriations as voted as final, we can go to the View Submit Appropriations page, move to Step 2, and then select the Finalize button, at which point we'll be prompted with a pop-up that asks if we're sure we want to submit this information. We can select OK, and we've now completed our appropriations as voted submission process. Upon selecting the View Appropriations Report, we will now see our Appropriations as Voted form, MS-232. Note that the watermark is gone. At this point, we can export it to a format like PDF, where we can sign the form and keep it in the town's records. Submitting your Appropriations as Voted form is the first step in the appropriations submission process. You're also required to provide supplemental documentation, including your posted budget, your posted warrant, meeting minutes, and for SB2 communities, deliberative session minutes and certified counts. For a list of what documents are required, please consult help documentation. You can upload each of the required documents by using the Upload Attachment functionality provided in the Forms and Documents table. If you do not want to attach documents, you may send hard copies to DRA, and they will attach the information. We can attach documents by going to the Upload Attachment to the right of whatever document we're referring to. In this case, our budget is posted. We will add a note about this, and then we will attach the form through a standard attachment dialog. Upon completion, we'll be returned to our home page, at which point we can view our attachment by selecting the View Attachment link. We can then move to the next document that is required, in this case, our meeting minutes. We'll begin by adding a note, and then once again select the document to be attached. We can upload our final attachment, once again indicating a note and selecting the required document. At this point, we've attached all the supplemental required documentation, and DRA has received an email notification indicating that we are ready for our appropriations review. Flashing forward in the process, after DRA has completed their appropriations review, we will receive an email notification. Upon logging in, we can see that the appropriations review step is selected in the status list. Moving to the appropriations page, we now have a View DRA Approved Appropriations Form button. Selecting that will let us see our MS-232R form, which shows us our final appropriations is voted as approved by DRA. At this point, we are done with the appropriations process. Thank you for watching. Up next, Video 8, Collective Bargaining Agreements.